Obiora moves through his ruined farm with the gait of a man who has stopped expecting mercy. He is lean, somewhere between 40 and 60, age has not been kind, only honest. His skin carries the texture of dry bark. His feet are cracked at the heels. He bends to lift a collapsed yam mound with both hands, cups the soil, and watches it crumble between his fingers like ash. He does not cry. He has moved past that. Behind him, at the edge of the compound, his wife Nkechi stands in the doorway of their mud-walled home. She is not watching him. She is watching the road, the same road that has brought nothing for months. Two small children press against her legs. Their eyes are wide and without hunger's drama, they have grown accustomed to the quiet ache of it. Obiora walks to the edge of his land, where a dry stream bed carves a pale scar through the earth. He stares into it. His shadow stretches long ahead of him in the late afternoon light, thin and faithful, reaching toward the dead water. He does not know yet that this shadow is the last honest thing he owns. He picks up a stone and throws it into the empty stream bed. The sound it makes, hollow, final, seems to settle something dark inside him. He turns back toward his house. The sun is behind him now. His shadow walks ahead. 3 days later. Market day in the village of Oguta. The village square is alive with the ordinary commerce of survival, women selling garden eggs and dried fish, men trading worn farm tools, children chasing goats between stalls. The air smells of palm oil, dust, and fermented cassava. Obiora moves through the market with empty hands and an empty basket. He is there to beg credit from the grain seller, Emeka, who has already turned him away twice. He waits at the edge of Emeka's store, hat in hand, watching Emeka pretend not to see him. That is when the stranger arrives. He enters the square from the northern road, the road that leads to nowhere most people go. He rides on no horse, carries no load on his head. He simply walks as though the road belongs to him. He is dressed in deep indigo robes that do not match the season or the place, too fine, too cool, too still against the harmattan. His face is unremarkable in the way that dangerous things sometimes are. He could be 40. He could be older than the road itself. People notice him without knowing why they notice him. Market noise dips. Conversations stutter. A goat pulls hard against its rope. The merchant, Chibik Okoro, though he has not yet said his name to anyone here, sets down a large leather satchel at the center of the square, unfastens its brass clasps, and opens it. What is inside catches the afternoon light in a way that makes no sense. Gold. Coral beads strung in dense, heavy ropes. Wrapped bundles of currency thick as a man's fist. He arranges these items slowly, almost ceremonially, without looking up. People gather. Obiora drifts closer despite himself. Chibik Okoro finally raises his eyes, and they move across the crowd with the precision of a man counting only what matters. They stop on Obiora. Something passes between them that has no name in any language. Obiora does not look away. He should. He does not. Evening. The square has emptied. The last trader has packed up and gone. Obiora and Chibik Okoro sit across from each other beneath the old Ojilisai tree at the square's northern edge, the tree where important agreements have always been witnessed by something older than men. The roots of the tree grip the earth like enormous fingers. Chibik Okoro speaks first. Or perhaps he does not speak at all, perhaps the communication between them happens in the old, wordless way that desperate men and knowing merchants have always understood each other. Either way, the terms are laid out with terrible clarity. Wealth beyond what the red earth of Oguta has ever produced. Granaries that will never empty. Rain where there has been drought. A name spoken with respect in the village square. Children who will not know hunger. In exchange, only one thing. Chibik Okoro places a flat, polished obsidian stone on the ground between them and gestures toward Obiora's shadow. The shadow stretches long behind Obiora in the last light of the day, reaching past the roots of the Ojilisai tree, thin and dark and complete. A man's shadow, the living proof that he occupies space in the world of the real. Obiora stares at the stone. He stares at his shadow. He looks at his hands, cracked, empty, honest. He thinks of Kechi standing in the doorway watching a road that brings nothing. He thinks of his children's eyes. He presses his palm to the obsidian stone. What happens next is not loud. There is no thunder, no fire, no cry from the sky. It is quieter than that. The shadow simply separates. It peels from Obiora's feet the way a bandage peels from old skin, smooth and wrong, and it folds itself into the leather satchel like dark cloth. Obiora watches this with the expression of a man who has just made a cut that does not yet hurt. Chibik Okoro closes the satchel. He places in Obiora's arms a bundle wrapped in red cloth, heavy, warm, inexplicably alive with promise. Then the merchant stands, lifts his satchel, and walks north on the road that leads to nowhere most people go. Obiora sits alone beneath the ogilisai tree as the last light dies. Where his shadow should be, there is only ground. Dawn. And everything is different. Obiora returns to his compound to find his granary rebuilt overnight, solid, wide-roofed, packed with yam and grain that could feed his family through 2 dry seasons. The dry stream at the edge of his farm runs with clean water. His soil, turned overnight by no hand anyone can name, is dark and rich and ready. He stands in the middle of it all and something in him ignites, not gratitude, not relief, but hunger. The hunger that wealth breeds faster than poverty ever could. He does not yet notice what is missing. The sun is still low, still forgiving. His shadow has not yet been demanded of him by circumstance. Nkechi comes out of the house and stops. She looks at the granary. She looks at the water in the stream. She looks at her husband. Her expression does not carry the joy that Obiora expects. She moves carefully around him the way a person moves around something that has changed but cannot say how. She reaches for him and stops short, her eyes dropping to the ground at his feet. Her face changes. Obiora follows her gaze downward. In the clear morning light, on packed red earth where shadows lie honest and long, there is nothing beneath him. Around him, every tree, every post, every chicken, every stone casts its shadow. He casts nothing. He steps forward. Nothing follows. He turns. Nothing. He moves into the direct eye of the morning sun and the world around him darkens with shadow in every direction. Only the ground beneath him is bare. Nkechi takes a step back. Then another. The children who had run out behind her freeze in the doorway. Obiora opens his mouth and closes it again. He looks at his hands, the same cracks, the same honest labor written into them. But something beneath him, some fundamental proof of his place in the world, is gone. 2 weeks. The wealth holds. The granary does not empty. The farm produces more than Obiora has ever harvested. Word moves through Ogita the way water moves through cracked earth, quietly, then everywhere at once. Men who avoided Obiora in the market now approach him with both hands extended, palms up. The grain seller Emeka, who refused him credit for months, now greets him at his compound gate with a wide, oil-smooth smile. An elder stops by to remark on the farm's recovery with careful words, the kind of words that contain an invitation to remember who was kind when things were hard. Obiora moves through all of this with increasing confidence, his chin lifting, his stride lengthening. He begins to dress better. He buys palm wine for men at the Obi. He talks louder than he used to. But the village has eyes. Children notice first, the way children always do. A group of them playing in the lane outside Obiora's compound watch him pass one afternoon and grow silent. One small boy points at the ground and says something to the others. They stare. One by one, they step back. Then a woman drawing water at the community well sees Obiora approach. She looks down, then up at him, then down again, and her hand tightens on the rope. She draws her water quickly and leaves without greeting him. At the Obi that evening, where the men of the village gather to drink and discuss, a silence follows Obiora in the way that judgment always precedes its announcement. Conversations do not stop entirely, that would require courage. They simply thin. Men angle their bodies slightly away. One elder, Diokpa Ogu, the oldest man in Oguta, looks at the ground near Obiora's feet for a long time without speaking. Obiora feels it but pretends not to. He drinks his palm wine. He laughs at something no one else finds funny. On his way home, he walks in the last light of dusk, and the road is full of shadows, long, amber-edged, faithful things trailing behind every person, every animal, every fence post. And nothing behind him. Just bare, shadowless ground, as though the earth itself refuses to acknowledge him. The morning of the new moon ceremony. A day that every Igbo compound marks, the day when the household spirits are fed, when the threshold is honored, when family gathers inside the obi and the ancestral ground to hold the world together for another cycle. Nkechi prepares everything early. She has said little to Obiora in 2 weeks. She cooks, tends the children, moves through her duties with the careful efficiency of a woman managing a great and private grief. She does not accuse. She simply watches. The ceremony requires the head of the household to cross the threshold of the ancestral obi first, to step over the chalk line that the eldest woman of the family draws on the ground before dawn, a line that, by tradition, no person without a shadow may cross. Not because of cruelty. Because the ancestors do not receive the incomplete. Because a man without a shadow is a man whose spirit has already been separated from his feet. Obiora walks to the threshold of the ancestral obi. Nkechi stands inside with the children and 3 elder women of the family. The chalk line glows white against the red earth. Beyond it is incense, kola nut, the voices of the living addressed to the listening dead. He steps forward to cross. He cannot. It is not a wall. There is no physical barrier. But his body knows what his pride has refused to accept, something in him that once made the crossing possible is absent. He stands at the threshold the way a man stands at the edge of deep water when he has forgotten how to swim. His foot lifts and refuses to complete the motion. He tries again. And again. The elder women inside the OBC. One looks at the ground at his feet and closes her eyes. Another turns her face away. Nkechi watches her husband at the threshold with an expression that has passed beyond sadness into something harder and quieter. The children look at their father, confused, waiting. Obiora stands at his own threshold, wealthy beyond what he imagined 6 weeks ago, and he cannot enter his home. He leaves before the ceremony ends. He takes the northern road out of Oguta at a near run, the same road the merchant walked away on weeks before. The road north is not a road most people travel for pleasure. It moves through dense bush, past hamlets whose names are not on any market day map, past the river crossing where the ferryman has the eyes of a man who has seen too many people going in one direction. Obiora pays the ferryman and crosses without speaking. He follows the road for 2 days. He sleeps once at the edge of a stranger's fire, not speaking, not explaining, watching the firelight cast shadows from every piece of wood, every sleeping animal, and nothing from himself. On the second afternoon, in a market town he does not recognize, he finds the merchant. Chibik Okoro sits at the far end of a long market row, his indigo robes unmoved by the same harmattan that bends every other cloth in the place. His leather satchel is beside him. He is arranging his goods with the same slow ceremony, the same precision, the same absolute calm of a man who has never needed to hurry because time moves for him rather than against him. Obiora approaches. His jaw is set. His fists are tight. His eyes carry 2 weeks of accumulated shame, the image of his own threshold, his children's waiting faces, Nkechi's silence. He plants himself in front of Chibik Okoro and the merchant looks up without surprise. He has the expression of a man who knew this meeting was scheduled. What passes between them now is not a conversation. It is a reckoning. Obiora's body communicates everything, the demand, the rage, the desperation, the dawning horror of fully understanding the terms of what he signed. He gestures at the ground beside him, at the empty space where his shadow should live. Chibik Okoro listens to all of it. His face does not change. Then he opens his satchel slowly, reaches inside, and produces the obsidian stone. He sets it on the ground between them. His expression says the rest, the price of return is the return of the wealth. All of it. Granary, harvest, soil, rain. Everything goes back to what it was. The cracked earth. The empty basket. The dry stream. Obiora stares at the stone. The merchant does not look away. Night has come by the time Obiora turns back south. He carries the obsidian stone in his left hand and nothing else. He walks slowly now, not with the frantic energy of his journey north. He walks the way a man walks when a decision has been made but has not yet been spoken aloud to the world. The road is dark. Above him, a full spread of stars. Around him, bush sounds, insects, distant water, the occasional bird call that could mean anything. His feet find the road by habit. He stops at a crossroads he passed 2 days ago. 4 paths radiating outward. Here, in the old way of his people, the place where decisions made have weight. Where the earth is said to listen. He crouches down and sets the obsidian stone on the ground at the center of the crossroads. He looks at it for a long time. His shadow is still absent, even here, under the stars, where the moon casts shadows from the grass and the stones and the trees on both sides of the road, nothing trails behind him. He picks the stone up again. He walks out. 3 more hours. The lights of Augusta appear below him on the flat dark plain, small fires in compound courtyards, the distant drum of someone's night ceremony. He can see, even from this distance, the roofline of his own compound, the wide-roofed granary he did not build with his own hands visible against the sky. He stops at the edge of the village. He presses his palm to the obsidian stone the way he did 6 weeks ago under the ogilisai tree. This time there is no merchant to witness it, no ceremony, no arrangement of gold. There is only a man, a stone, and a choice made so quietly that the night insects do not stop for it. Something rises from the ground. It is dark and thin and shaped like him, and it reaches up from the earth beneath his feet the way water rises through cracked ground after rain. It reattaches with the same terrible quiet as its remover, smooth, wrong, and then right. He looks at the ground and his shadow is there. Thin in the moonlight. Faithful. His. Behind him, somewhere not on the road he cannot see, the granary falls. He feels it in his chest, not a sound, but a subtraction. The wealth releasing itself back to wherever it came from. He stands at the edge of Augusta with his shadow and his empty hands. He walks home. The compound is quiet. Late. Cook fire ash. The smell of pepper soup made hours ago. Nkechi is still awake. She is sitting outside the door of the house, her back against the mud wall, a wrapper pulled around her shoulders against the cool night air. She is not waiting, or she has decided not to call it waiting. She is simply present, the way women who have loved difficult men for a long time learn to be present without attachment to outcome. She sees Obiora come through the compound gate and she does not move. He walks across the compound. His feet find the familiar ground. He passes the granary, smaller now, returning to what it was. He passes the stream at the edge of the farm, already thinning back to dry season silence. He reaches the threshold of the house. Nkechi's eyes drop to the ground at his feet. His shadow. Moonlight thin, faithful, right where it belongs. She stands slowly. She does not run to him. She stands and looks at him with the full weight of a woman who has seen something and now has to decide what it means for the rest of her life. In her eyes, the weeks of silence, the children at the doorway, the chalk line he could not cross, the granary that replaced nothing real. He stops before her. His hands at his sides. Empty. What he has instead of explanation is presence, the simple, available, shadow-casting fact of him standing on the earth as a whole man. He kneels. Not in the dramatic way of theater. In the small, private way of a man who understands that some apologies require the body as well as the voice. He kneels on the red earth of his own compound, beneath the stars, and he presses both palms to the ground, the way his people greet the earth after a long absence, the way a man acknowledges that the ground beneath him is not given but earned. Nkechi watches him for a long time. Then she steps forward and stands beside him. She does not pull him up. She simply stands there, her shadow beside his in the moonlight. 2 shadows on the ground. The children appear in the doorway, called by some quiet instinct, and their small shadows join the 2 on the red earth. The family stands in their compound, shadow-cast, whole, broke, alive. The threshold waits behind Nkechi, chalk line faint but present. Obiora rises. He walks to the threshold and stops. He breathes. He crosses. The farm is as it was before the merchant came, dry, hard, asking. The granary has reduced to what Obiora built himself over years of ordinary labor. The stream runs low. The soil is red and difficult. Obiora stands in the farm at first light, and his shadow stretches long behind him. He picks up his hoe. Not the fine, new-handled one that appeared with the wealth, the old one, handle worn smooth in the places his grip falls naturally, blade carrying the small nicks of years of actual use. He sets the blade against the earth. He begins to dig. His children come to the edge of the farm and watch their father work. The boy, the smaller of the two, looks at the ground beside Obiora and then looks at his own feet and then looks at his mother. Nkechi, coming up behind them with a water gourd, follows the boy's gaze and sees what he is seeing, their father's shadow moving across the broken ground with every stroke of the hoe, faithfully present, unimpressive, alive. The boy runs into the farm and stands beside his father. He picks up a stick and begins, with great seriousness, to dig at a patch of earth near Obiora's feet. His small shadow walks beside his father's shadow. Obiora does not stop digging. He does not speak. But something in the set of his shoulders changes, something releases that has been held since before the merchant came, since before the cracked earth, since before he first looked at his empty hands and decided that what he had was insufficient. He digs. The harmattan wind moves across the farm. Dust rises and settles. The red earth receives the hoe's blade and gives back dark, honest soil, not the enchanted richness of purchased abundance, but the real mineral darkness of ground that yields to consistent effort. Nkechi watches from the farm's edge. She does not smile yet. But she stays. Further down the northern road, beyond the ferryman's crossing, beyond the market town where the merchant sat in his indigo robes, the leather satchel moves. No one sees it. It passes between two trees on the road's margin and enters deep bush and continues north, deeper north, toward places where roads have no names and bargains of this kind are stored until the next desperate man arrives at a crossroads with something irreplaceable to offer. The Ojilisai tree in the village square stands as it has stood for 3 generations. Its roots grip the earth. Its shadow falls wide and cool across the ground. At its base, barely visible in the red dust, the faint impression of 2 men who sat across from each other, one who knew exactly what he was taking, and one who believed, in the way that hunger makes men believe, that he was only selling something he could afford to lose. The tree keeps its shadow. The farm waits for its man. The earth, as it has always done, remembers everything.